And we're back. And now, to conclude this issue, it is episode, issue, intermingle. So when I say it, just know that it's either or. We're going to go with another strange pairing. Night of the Monster Men number 4 and Night of the Monster Men number 5. Batman number 8, Night of the Monster Men part 4. Well, in Batman number 8, we get to see more monsters, which the slime that Spoiler and Orphan had burned off in the cave, that turned out to be a monster all its own.
Yeah, it's worth noting that that slime went from just being the red goopy stuff covering people to basically turning them into very zombie-looking monstrosities, which is pretty shocking from issue to issue. I mean, it was pretty noticeable that there was red slime over everybody.
Yep.
And yet the police and Spoiler and Orphan seemed kind of oblivious to that, and then suddenly they turn into, 28 days later style zombies. So, they handled that by themselves. There's now this giant monster, which looks a heck of a lot bigger than the other previous monsters.
It did.
Now heading towards Gotham. It looks like Spoiler and Orphan might not be able to handle that. Looks like it's going to be up to the rest of the team.
Right, and the team has their hands full right now, just kind of corralling the monsterized Gotham Girl and Nightwing.
Mm-hmm.
And
still taking out the last monster.
Yes.
That was still previously there that Batman manages to take down on his own.
And finally, by taking, what did he take, his motorcycle and use, what did he have, smart oil or smart fuel?
Yeah.
I guess fuel with silicon, so he was able to control it and electrocuted the monster. And in the meantime, Duke and Alfred are at the Batcave, and they're breaking down the substance of this, what turns out to be some super venom, like super customized venom. Well, this makes, they find the cure because they break down the compound, so they kind of reprogram the venom to go back to the cells. And that brings Duke out into the field, which Batman specifically told him, do not come out to the field. Mm-hmm. Duke does it anyway.
Yeah.
What do you think his motivation is for that?
Partly, I think it's to show off that super cool yellow and black outfit he has.
Right. Yep.
But, I mean, Duke also, I think, has this very personal connection to Gotham Girl.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the one who really helped console her through a lot of the stuff that happened with her brother. And I think he feels a personal need to take care of her. This has to be him, not necessarily Batman, that saves her.
Yes.
And that's, I mean, it succeeds with him. I mean, he manages to help Gotham Girl, and that's, it goes against Batman's wishes. So it makes you wonder, for this team to succeed, does Batman need to give them a little bit more leeway?
I think so.
I mean, not everything's going to go according to plan.
Right.
I mean, not everything went according to Batman's plan throughout this story arc, but I mean, it still turned out fairly well.
And Batwoman is a great field general herself, and they're proving to be a valuable team, but Batman does have to kind of concede that Batwoman is a capable leader in her own right.
Yeah, and you'd think at some point that they'd want to sort of merge Gotham Girl and Duke in with the other team that we see in Detective Comics, too.
Yes.
You'd think, I mean, if he's trying to ready them for, ready Duke and Gotham Girl for fighting, or just to keep Gotham Girl out of it, and to get Duke ready for fighting, you'd think they'd want them to be part of the team, too. Get a little bit of experience, or even help Gotham Girl get some of the weight of caring for Gotham City off of her shoulders.
Right.
Too, by seeing that there's a team. Maybe get her into a support role so she's not killing herself by using her powers.
Yes. How cool was Clayface?
That was cool. That was really neat. Yeah. I mean, Clayface forms a suit around Batman. And it's cool because you don't know it's Clayface when he shows up. It just looks like Batman standing there with a bunch of Gotham City civilians behind him. And then pretty soon they turn brown and whoop, they're on him. And and he forms a big Batman suit. And that was really cool. I mean, it was different. It makes Clayface super useful. I mean, we already know he was useful when they were fighting the colony. I mean, he he absolutely thrashed those guys.
Yes, he did.
And he didn't actually fare quite as well against Gotham Girl because she managed to, what did she do? Like clap her hands or something, and
Yep.
sort of dispersed him for a while, and that, that sort of took him out of the fight. But that was still a really cool,
It was.
sort of a cool team up for Batman and Clayface to have.
Mm-hmm. Well, this issue kind of, what really happens is Gotham Girl gets cured, Nightwing gets cured. They figure out that this formula is a toxic venom, and that the Bane had traded his venom to Hugo Strange for the Psycho Pirate. I'm not sure if that's mentioned really in this issue or in the next issue that we'll discuss.
I think they did mention it in this issue.
Okay.
I think.
And so the dots are starting to get connected. And all the while, we still have this big black slime tree monster that's coming to attack Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
Nightwing number 6, Night of the Monster Men, part 5. And Nightwing, he's watching the tape. When they get cured, him and Spoiler are up onto a tower. And while the slime monster's coming, they're hacking into Dr. Hugo Strange's Arkham files.
Mm-hmm.
And he is he's diagnosing the patients.
Mm-hmm.
There's 4 distinct patients there. One was the rage. What was it?
One had difficulties in childhood.
Yes.
One had problems with grief. One had problems with fear, and one had problems with being manipulated.
Yes.
And it's Nightwing's idea that this is Hugo Strange's diagnosis of Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are 4 things that deal with Bruce Wayne.
Yes.
I mean, he had the childhood trauma. He's, he works based on fear. That
Yes.
criminals are a superstitious and cowardly lot. He's being fueled by grief over the loss of his parents, more recently over the loss of Red Robin.
Yes.
And he's also manipulating. I mean,
Yes.
he's manipulative in terms of how he uses his team and how he has a fairly strict control over what they do.
Exactly. I wonder why so this was basically a call to Batman, this is my self-diagnosis of you. I'm using these monsters to get your attention
Mm-hmm.
for a one-on-one showdown. Nightwing tells Batman to ignore it. Batman's not going to ignore it. He said, you pretty much got my attention now.
Yeah, that's about the stupidest thing you could say to Batman.
Right.
Really, that's the one thing in this issue that wanted me to just sort of slap Nightwing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
really?
Mhm.
Dude, come on.
Yeah.
And it is kind of cool, too, because this made me think about all the monsters we've seen. And there was, the first one was the big, hideous baby one.
Right.
And, like, the one that was at Blackgate, I think is supposed to be the fear one, because that had the
Right.
really scary spider look and those weird infected dog things, and
Mhm.
that was pretty freaky. So it kind of made sense for me. It's like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. It's out there. I think
Yep.
there's still that final cap that needs to go on this plot
Yep.
that I think we're only going to get from Hugo Strange when
Mhm.
he has that showdown with Batman. There's going to be that final, okay, that's why he did it like that,
Yes.
which I think will help. But
Yeah, we do see the last couple panels that Hugo Strange is dressing up in a bat suit, and in the background is all types of articles, blueprints of Batman, his armor, notes. So he's been studying Batman. I think maybe to take his place, this diagnosis to be a better Batman, and that would explain why he was working out as well.
Mm-hmm.
He was looking for the physical confrontation.
yeah.
In the meantime, the Bat Team has to deal with these monsters. So as a last line of defense, they do the protocol for weaponizing the Wayne Towers, that they were weaponized, which Batman said that after the Darkseid War, he built these towers as weapons of kind of last resort, which is strange. The theme of Strange is you have towers weaponized, something like out of a G.I. Joe where Thundercats, where all of a sudden your home base becomes a weapon.
Yeah.
Voltron, the castle, that's what I was thinking earlier, is all of a sudden the castle turns into a flying gunship.
Yeah.
And so we've had the moon base.
Yeah.
We've had the lights, the street lights.
the bat beacons.
Yep,
Yeah.
the bat beacons.
Yeah.
this weaponizing this technology, is that something you expect from Batman?
Not really. I like my Batman stories to be a bit more subtle. I mean, throwing batarangs, using all the gadgets he has in the Batcave, not necessarily weaponizing the biggest buildings in Gotham City to become your own personal monster tasers.
Right.
Or, to build a moon base, or to have a street light so you can speak to all the citizens of Gotham. That's a lot of reach for Batman, I find. Honestly, at this point, the moon base seems like not even an issue at this point. It's like part of my brain keeps saying, stop thinking about that. It's New 52. It's a different Batman than you're used to. But the other part of my brain also says, yes, it's New 52, but really New 52 was more about, maybe individual little bits of characters' backstories.
Right.
Little slight changes. The spirit of the characters stays the same. It's just,
Is it maybe too soon? Yeah, it doesn't fit in. And is it too soon to see something this grand for what we're seeing?
Well, I think in any other comic, too, any other hero or super team that weaponizes public buildings and builds a moon base and, has a beacon to talk to all the citizens of Gotham, they would get some oversight. I mean, either from, that would kind of raise some alarms, like either from the government or even from another team. I mean, if Iron Man did this, Captain America might be raising an eyebrow saying, okay, that's a little nuts. It's interesting. It's different. Obviously, Batman has a lot of power in the DC universe.
Exactly. Maybe a little bit too much power right now.
Who knows? I mean, the moon base got pretty much totaled by Superman.
Right.
And who knows? These towers might not last that long either. So.
No. A new relationship that we kind of see is the first time that Gotham Girl and Batwoman kind of meet and talk in different circumstances, because we're just kind of thinking, we don't know what will happen, but maybe Batwoman might be the guiding force that Gotham Girl needs.
That would make sense, because, I mean, so far she's really only interacted with Batman and Duke at this point. And, I mean, Duke seems like he's been a very positive force. Batman, maybe not so much of a positive force. I mean, he's being a positive force in his own way, but he's still the harsh, cold, stay in the Batcave at any cost Batman. And I think she would benefit from having Batwoman, because, I mean, they've already mentioned all the benefits that, like, Spoiler and Orphan and Clayface have had just from working with Batwoman.
Right.
And she's another very professional hero, and she's very different than Batman. So we'll see if that goes any further. Again, like I said, it would be cool if she and Duke would join the Bat team that they have in Detective Comics, which, speaking of which, they really need a name for that team.
Yes,
I get tired of saying the Bat team, but...
Well, until they say it's the Bat team.
Yeah, or the Bat family, or whatever.
Right.
Whatever you want to call it.
So we're kind of at the end of the issue, like we talked about, was Nightwing with the diagnosis of Hugo Strange's diagnosis of Batman. Batman says, well, if he wanted my attention, he's got it. Hugo Strange is dressed in a bat suit for what we would imagine if they get through the monsters, that'll be the final encounter with Hugo Strange. The story arc has been kind of, it's been more science fiction-y in a way. And right now we've gone from subtle to over the top. And for Batman, right now in this story arc, there's some good plot points in it. There's some really good plot points, some real good character development. But for the most part, it's just kind of felt like out of place. And maybe because it was the gap holder for the next major story arc that we're going to get, and it being the time of year that it came out, Halloween when it originally came out, was just kind of, whoa, really, Batman? This is weird. But let's see what this last issue brings to us so we can kind of put it in context.
Yeah, I think the story arc really would have been maybe a little more palatable to us if it was on a smaller scale. Do the monsters on a smaller scale, not giant monsters attacking Gotham during a hurricane. Maybe they're not going to use giant weaponized towers to fight giant monsters. Maybe make them, human-sized or a little bit bigger than that. I mean, make them something a little more subtle. That's a term we've used a few times in this.
Yes.
But it's still cool. It's a very different, it's a different take on Batman, and gives some points that they might use later on. We'll see.
Right. Well, that wraps up this episode of Comic Book Cove with Some Things Are Just So Strange. Your thoughts, we've gotten your thoughts on some of the issues. My thoughts are some of them went together pretty well. Others were, whoa, this was kind of weird to see it in this place. But most of them were fairly fun issues. Some of them I was kind of, I'm not so sure about. And that was kind of my feeling for the grouping that we had this week.
Yeah. You know, it's going to be kind of a strange episode when the robot bear is sort of the least eyebrow-raising thing in the entire field.
Yep.
Like, whoa, that's that was sort of the first one I read, and then reading all the others, like, screw the robot bear. That's
right, exactly.
That's normal compared to the rest of these.
That's the new norm.
Yeah.
How many the new will be, how many robot bears is this absurd on a scale of 1 robot bear to 10 robot bears?
Yeah.
What is the absurdity? If you have any thoughts or comments on, well, maybe you like these issues, maybe you didn't like these issues, you just want to discuss, drop us a line on Delve Into the Void's Facebook and YouTube site. So for this episode, I'm Tom Morris.
And I'm Josh Hilderbaum.
And we'll see you next time at Comic Book Cove.